up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Genie Plus, Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We'll look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, good to see you this evening.
Good to see you too, Derek. I liked your little slip up there. That's okay.
Yeah, it's been a week.
It has, I understand.
Okay. Next, we've got Peter. Pete, glad to have you with us.
Yeah, I was trying to make a Robin Williams genie joke, and I couldn't come up with one in my head.
Well,
That's fair.
Yeah. And last but certainly not least, we've got Steve. Steve,
Congratulations,
everyone. Conferences.
Yes, I'm done.
Woo!
Guys, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share, so we can help get the word out and help all your friends listen to us on Plus Platoon also. So
yeah, check us out on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and
yeah, we're all a bunch of twits. So
Tweet us on Facebook.
All right. This week we are grabbing one of our diamonds in the rough, and we are looking at the series The Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom. There have now been 2 seasons of this out. Season 1 came out year and a half ago, I believe. And the new season, I believe, is all out.
yes,
It is showing on the National Geographic channel once a week. They are still bringing out new episodes, but all of the episodes are available on Disney Plus. What it essentially does is follows the keepers at Animal Kingdom and other Disney properties as they care for the animals in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
We watched 2 specific episodes just so we had a common place of reference. We watched season 1, episode 7, and we watched season 2, episode 2. Those were fairly representative. They gave us some happy stuff, some sad stuff, and I will say I watched a couple other episodes, and the 2 episodes we watched were very, very, other than different animals, the episodes were very similar. So, with that being said, Pete, I'm going to start with you because you were the one that was really high on this show to start with. What was magical about the magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom?
yeah. So I'm a big fan of these type of shows. There's a number of shows that are on National Geographic and also on Disney Plus called Secrets of the Zoo. It started with the Columbus Zoo, which is one of the top zoos in the country in Columbus, Ohio. And there's a number of other ones. There's one for zoo in Sydney, Australia, one in Tampa, a couple other ones. But so this is a very similar show to that because, as you said, it basically goes behind the scenes with the keepers taking care of the animals. To me, though, because I do also travel to Disney, this is very interesting because you get to see the animals that you see in the parks, but also see some of the behind the scenes things. So to me, it's a little more direct. I wouldn't say, from the quality of the show, I actually probably like Secrets of the Zoo Columbus a little bit better because I think they have a little more variety to it. But I think that this show is still very well done. It's obviously patterned after those shows. I do like that they will also go to the seas in Epcot. I don't think either of the episodes we watched had that, but some of the other episodes.
The sea turtles were at the seas. The sea turtles that needed help.
Oh, okay.
Some of the rehab sea turtles were actually at the seas in Epcot.
Okay. Yeah, and then they went to Vero Beach as well, and so they'll definitely go all over the place with Disney, but it's mostly focused on Animal Kingdom and Animal Kingdom Lodge. I picked the episodes, and one of the reasons I picked the season 1 episode 7 is there's a hornbilled bird, hornbill, in that episode that actually when we were staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge in January, he basically hung out outside of our room, so we saw him pretty much every day. So he's a little bit of, I guess, a celebrity on property there for anyone that's seen the show. So I picked that one just because I wanted to rewatch it. I think it's a very entertaining show. You have to have a love for animals, and you have to have an interest in behind the scenes caretaking of animals. There's a lot of time spent with like vets and things like that. There was one episode, I don't think it was one of the ones we watched. There was one episode that they had one of the nutritionists, and we had actually talked to that same person in January, and then we saw the episode in February, saw her on the episode. So I think that's kind of cool too, that you actually might see familiar faces if you go and visit Animal Kingdom. So overall, it's really a show that I enjoy a lot. It's not something that I would like watch back to back episodes of, but it's definitely something that I enjoy. What do you think, Steve?
I'm like Hugh. One of the things I loved about this, I saw the first season right before I went to Walt Disney World, and then be able to go there and actually see some of the animals that you had seen in the episodes was very cool. Especially when you're in some of the walkthroughs in Animal Kingdom, to be able to point them out or ask the people there if that was the animal you saw, because all the animals have names. It's also, I found it fascinating. I think it was in one of the episodes where they're talking about how they designed the walkthrough, the Kilimanjaro safaris, how it's all separated but doesn't look like that. I have a special place because where I grew up, about 20 minutes from my house, we had the wildlife safari where you drove your car through this track and you got to see animals. Actually, animals came up to your car. So it's sort of like similar things, but Animal Kingdom is much better done. I also like that you got to see a lot of the behind the scenes and all the work that they do to take care of the animals. Found that really fascinating. I could talk about things I didn't like in the next go around, but what did you think, Derek?
Yeah, I like the variety of animals that they pulled out. They didn't just focus on, the super big headliner animals. It wasn't all lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, and elephants. It was the sea turtles. It was the hornbill. It was these animals that you may not necessarily pay that close of attention to, that still need care and still need help from the keepers. I liked the fact that they did not pull any punches when they had to euthanize that gorilla in season 2, episode 2. I like the fact that they didn't hide that, because they very easily could have, said, talked about how he was having problems, had a degenerative disease, and then never given any kind of conclusion. But it was no. And they explained why, he was in pain for quality of life. They felt that they had to euthanize him. Mm-hmm. So I like that they didn't pull those punches. Yeah. Kate, what'd you like about the show?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It probably wasn't my favorite thing we've ever watched, but I also think, and this will kind of go into our next thing, that I'm just not a huge fan of animal documentaries, even though I love a good documentary. Animal documentaries and nature documentaries don't hold my attention as much as like historical documentaries. But that being said, it was kind of like what all of you have said. It was really interesting, having worked at the Animal Kingdom for several years, worked at Festival of the Lion King, which is in Africa at the Animal Kingdom. I saw a lot of these animal trainers walking around. Some of these people looked so familiar to me. And it did make me feel better, because you just never know at certain animal zoos or animal parks. You're like, oh, I just really hope they're taken care of and not abused. And so it did give me a little bit of peace of mind in that these animals really are very well cared for, very, very loved. One thing that I particularly thought was fascinating was in the second episode that we watched, being a physical therapist for gorillas. That that they have physical therapists for gorillas. I thought that was so interesting. What a cool job. What an interesting job. Something I just never, that veterinarians exist, but physical therapists for animals, that's just so cool. So I loved the backstory that they gave on a lot of them. I loved, and agreed, Derek, that they didn't pull the punches on following through the entire story with the gorilla. It was probably, for someone who is not a huge animal documentary fan, it was a really good documentary. There you go.
That's fair. Okay, now Kate, so this is what was magical. Kate, I'm going to let you start on this one. What wasn't so special about this set of these documentaries?
So this is hard for me because I don't, and I thought a lot about this because I don't know if this is the documentary's fault or if this is just the fact that I'm not a huge fan of animal show documentaries. It didn't hold my attention super well. I found myself wanting to kind of reach for my phone. It also, while was cool to watch, having worked at the Animal Kingdom, it was also kind of weird to watch, having them talk about the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. It's like, okay, but I kind of thought that was just like a shtick for the ride. Like, so it there were points where like I was listening and I was taking it in, but then there were other points where they were talking about like that. And I was like, wait, y'all don't actually think this is like an African wildlife reserve, right? Like, like this is a shtick. So it's hard for me to answer that because I don't know if it's this documentary or if it's just animal documentaries in general. Shoot, there was one more thing I had, and now I can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. Pete, what about you? It'll come to me.
So the one thing I would say is that the first season they had Josh Gad do the narration for it. And then the second season they have, and I don't remember the person's name, but it's not anyone famous or anything. And we were watching the first episode of the second season, and my daughter said, "Is that a computer talking?" The person is very flat, kind of monotone.
Like
yeah, that's what she was like. Is that Siri or something? And I think that I think Josh Gad, even though he didn't get over the top, like he wasn't really Olafy or anything like that, he added personality to his narration. And then in the second season, the narration was very flat and boring. And I don't think that helped. And then the other thing I would say is these shows do tend to get a little bit repetitive. Again, if you watch multiple episodes, and that's why I don't watch a lot of them in a row, is that they're kind of same, right? I mean, it's they're talking about treatment of animals for the most part. They don't spend a lot of time talking about behind the scenes operations of the park, which when they do that, I think that's very interesting. There was one episode in the first season where they talked about like backstage at Animal Kingdom, they have this huge field of shrubbery or whatever you want to call it, greenery, where they grow all the food for the animals, and they like took you back there and they showed you that, and that kind of stuff was really interesting to me. Whereas, but again, 90% of it is kind of the same. Here's an animal, something's wrong with it, let's figure it out. Okay, so I can see where people might get bored at the repetitiveness of it. I find it fascinating enough that it doesn't bore me, but I could see people being bored by it. What about you, Steve?
I'm going to add on to what you said. I think the show does really well when they do more of the backstage stuff of what's happening behind the scenes to really appreciate all the work they put into it. The other thing I don't like is I think they try to do too many animals in the episode. I would like it. They narrowed it down to like 2. I felt sometimes like, but I want to know more. And you jumped. And sometimes the jumps were in strange locations, like you're cutting now. That was really the big thing. I liked the first season much more than I've liked the second season so far. I think the same things you said, better narrator, I think it was a little bit more in depth on some of the episodes. Yeah. So what do you think, Derek?
I think first thing, your criticism of wanting to focus more on specific animals in specific episodes. I would have preferred to see a 25-minute episode about one animal.
Agreed.
As
100%
opposed to
agreed.
as opposed to a 40-minute episode about 3 animals.
Agreed.
This felt like I was not the target audience for this. The target audience for this was the kids watching ABC at 10:30 on Saturday mornings. That was the target audience. It felt very juvenile.
One Saturday morning.
Reminded me of the Jack Hanna show with the animals. Reminded me of Wild Kratts, the PBS show with animals.
It wasn't as. I mean, I liked my daughter liked Wild Kratts, but it wasn't as bad as that.
No, it wasn't as bad as what. But that's just what I kept thinking, and. Wasn't that if you knew stuff about animals and you're into animals and a lot of stuff, some of the episodes didn't have a lot of new information, like the sea turtle one, where with the babies and the sea turtles, someone who has seen that on multiple nature documentaries, I didn't really need to see it again.
Yeah.
I watched another episode where they went through and basically it was a new horse for the wedding carriage, the wedding Cinderella carriage.
Yes.
And how the biggest thing they have to acclimate it to is the noise of the monorail as it goes overhead.
Really?
Uh-huh. So, because if they're at the Grand Floridian, it's about a half-mile walk to the wedding chapel where you're basically walking underneath the monorail track. So, but it was fine. It was okay. It wasn't great for me. So,
and I do want to say one other criticism versus some of these other shows. Watching the Secrets of the Zoo in Columbus, there's certain people, veterinarian zookeepers, that are on episodes over and over again, and you get to know them as well as the animals. And I never got that from this show, that I felt like I'm getting to know some of the keepers. And I think that makes for a better show with Secrets of the Zoo than it does for this, because I don't feel like I have any clue who any of these people are in this show.
And I think they did that on purpose. I think they did that because they wanted the animals to be the show, not the keepers to be the show.
Wasn't there, granted, I only watched the 2 episodes that we talked about, but wasn't there one lady who was in both?
The vet.
The vet. Okay. I was going to say, I thought there was at least one.
Yeah. But I watched several other episodes and she wasn't in any of those others. So she just happened to be in the 2 we watched.
Yeah. I have to say, one thing that that made me chuckle a little bit was in the first one we watched, when they were checking the eyesight of the monkey.
Oh, the mandrill.
And they were like, one of them said, I don't want to give him any more sedation, which I was like, okay, that's great. We're not just like completely drugging our animals to death. And then they were like, if I say run,
get out now.
I say go, go. And then it was like, his arm's starting to move. We gotta go. Well, like, it's just, because you
remind anyone else of that scene in Independence Day, the arms moving.
Yes. So that just made me chuckle a little bit, because I think I have a misconception of workers with these animals that, like, oh, they become so bonded to the animals that the animals, like, they can just go into the tiger's lair and like play patty cake with them or something. Because like you see videos on Instagram and TikTok of people who have raised cubs from ever, and then they see them again and they're like, ah. Anyway, so when they were like, hey, the sedation's wearing off, if I say run,
run. Like you just don't. That was like a scene out of a movie to me. That just made me chuckle. Anyway.
And they did have, I don't know if it was in one of these episodes, but one of the episodes I was watching, they were examining the animal in the room that's out at Rafiki's Planet Watch.
Mhm.
And if you go out there, this is separate from Disney Plus, but if you go to Animal Kingdom and you go to Rafiki's Planet Watch, they do in the morning have schedules where they're examining animals. You usually have to go there pretty early, so a lot of guests don't do that because they're too busy trying to ride, Expedition Everest or something, or Pandora. But if you go out there in the morning, a lot of times they'll have examinations. And I remember many, many years ago, my wife and I, before my daughter was born, went there, and they actually had a lion on the table, sedated, right there and all these people are standing around watching them examine this lion. And it's really cool to see firsthand, depending on what kind of animal they have. I guess if it's like a dog or something, it wouldn't be that exciting, but
I think that was because from when they pulled out, I think that's when they were examining the gorilla, was in that shot.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember seeing one where it was definitely in that room. So
yes, when they're doing that with Spike, it was that room. So
okay, awesome. Okay, speaking of Disney's Animal Kingdom, this was to show the behind the scenes. When Animal Kingdom first debuted at Disney World, they had a phrase, Nahtazu, because it is Nahtazu, was the whole idea behind it. And we just got Kate, our resident Animal Kingdom expert. Kate did not realize that's what that was. Yeah.
I worked at Animal Kingdom for 10 years and I've never heard that, and that's hilarious.
They haven't used
Nahtazu.
They haven't used Nahtazu in a long time.
Kate, I had to look it up.
Wow.
And so my question is, if that is what they're going for, Steve, is Animal Kingdom still Nahtazu?
Maybe. It's that gray area, because I think my last visit, like the safari, their reserve is really probably the closest where it's not a zoo, or at Animal Kingdom Lodge, but some of their trails, it's a zoo. It's where the zoo standards are now, where it's still an enclosure, where it looks as natural to the environment as possible, but it's still an enclosure. It still feels like a zoo. So it's that gray area. Some of it's not a zoo. Some of it is a zoo. That's where I would stand.
Yeah. For me, where I grew up here in South Central Kansas, we actually have one of the premier zoos in the country. It's in Sedgwick County in Wichita, with like our gorilla exhibit was designed by Jane Goodall, helped design the gorilla exhibit.
You're going to say gorillas.
No. But so to me, Animal Kingdom is definitely a zoo, because if it's not a zoo, it's a half-day park.
That's a good point.
If you don't go to the safari and you don't go walk the trails in 120-degree heat index in July, Animal Kingdom's a half-day park at most. And yes, they want to say, it's this amazing natural areas, and it is. But if you've got a really good zoo, you can see just about everything at your local zoo. So I would say, yes, it is a zoo. And I don't know that it's a top 5 zoo in the country.
No.
I'm like you, Derek.
I would agree with that.
I have 2 like well-known, nationally known zoos within half hours of there, half hour north, half hour south. So I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So, Kate, is Animal Kingdom a zoo?
So I can tell you that my answer, if I was still working for the company, would be different. Now that I am not working for the company, 100% it's a zoo. Absolutely, it's a zoo. It's an immersive zoo. It's immersive with the safari. I'll give them that. The parts about the enclosures are pretty cool. How it's roped off by moats doesn't stop the animals from getting out. Something happened a while back where like a something got out and ate something else. I can't remember what it was. I don't remember what it was. But
Churro.
I went to the Omaha Zoo years
Oh, yeah.
ago. Got out and ate a churro. That was funny. I went to the Omaha Zoo years ago, and this was also
Yeah.
crazy immersive, like
Mhm.
really cool. So if you look at it from a zoo standpoint, it's subpar at best. It's terrible. But
No,
if you look
no,
at
I
it from
wouldn't
a
say
Disney
terrible,
park
Kate.
that happens to have
No.
animals,
And Kate, I would fight back against terrible, because to me, a terrible zoo is animals in concrete cages, which do still exist. To me, that is a terrible zoo. Now,
yeah, I'll agree
most
with
good
that.
zoos are getting away from that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
But I would say it's not a terrible zoo. It's not an amazing zoo, but it's not a terrible zoo. Pete, what's your thoughts?
So I'm going to go against the crowd and still say it's not a zoo. Yes, they have animal enclosures, but most zoos that I've been to don't have thrill coasters or a dinosaur time travel ride or a
To their
visit to
benefit.
another planet. What?
It is to their benefit they do not have the dinosaur time travel ride.
Well, but
Love
you know what
that
I'm
ride.
saying, or you know, character greets, or let's give a lot of credit to Festival of the Lion King, which is a fantastically entertaining show. And also Finding Nemo is not bad either. And all those things you do not find at a zoo, because not saying that some zoos don't have rides or things, but most zoos are just about going and learning about animals. And the other thing I give props to Animal Kingdom on that respect, learning about animals, is pretty much every exhibit you go to in Animal Kingdom, there is someone there that you can ask questions of and learn about the animals. And most zoos you go to, they have lots of signs and you can read about the animals and everything like that. But this is even walking the trails, if you walk the trails as you go through each set of the exhibits, they have somebody there. They have someone with the tigers. They have someone with the Komodo dragon. They have someone with the, all these different animals. And not that everybody takes advantage of that, but I think that's really a unique thing to do. And I'm kind of amazed they haven't gotten rid of that with all the budget cuts they've done over the years.
Well, and Pete, I will say they have people there usually.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been
It's
days.
not perfect, but
yeah, there have been days where I've gone through there and I don't know what you're talking about with cast members at exhibits. Now, I might have just been there during a shift change or whatever, but I have never seen that, the people at the different exhibits. So,
oh, really?
Really? I've never
Really?
seen it.
No, it's
No.
as I said, I can think of like there's always someone at the Gorillas, there's someone at the Meerkat. I mean, I'll be honest, since COVID, I don't think I've been through those. So it may have changed since the return of COVID, but that's how they used to do it.
And that's what I'm remembering is post-COVID. So
Yeah. So it's possible they haven't fully brought that back. But anyways, even beyond that, just as I said, in general, to me, it's a theme park with also animal exhibits that are yes, there are parts of it that are like a zoo. And so it's not totally not a zoo, but it's, if you just think you're going there to go to a zoo, you can also spend, a good part of the day there, as you said, and not actually go and see any animals, which, like, I'm not sure what zoo you can go to and not see any animals and consider that you got a good day. So
actually, the Omaha
fair.
Zoo. I could go to the Omaha Zoo. The Omaha Zoo has some fun stuff there that you could go and not see animals and have a good time.
okay,
Yeah.
well, you win.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So as we normally do, we've watched couple representative shows of this series. We need to give it a pixie dust rating out of 5. Kate, you're up.
2.5.
I think I'm gonna give it a 3. As I said, I think there are shows of this ilk that are done better, but I did enjoy it, so I'm gonna give it a 3.
I'm with Pete. I'm giving it a 3, but I'm not necessarily going to watch episode after episode. I'll go and watch it from time to time to pick up on the episodes. A 3.
2.5. It's fine. It was okay. Sure, whatever. Wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
So 2.5. So fairly standard. Fairly. I mean,
This might be the most we've agreed with each other ever in
one
our
of-
ratings.
especially recently. Especially recently, it's one of the most we've agreed with each other. So, okay. As some of you may not know, if you've been hiding under a rock or in a cave, Mandalorian season 3 has premiered on March 1st. Okay. This episode is being put out March 2nd. We have not had time to watch the first episode. Pete, and I'm also going to bring in our producer Gina on this one.
Hi.
Hey, Gina.
Okay. So let's say for laughs, you have people on this show who have not watched all of season 1, who have not watched all of season 2, and have only watched part of Boba Fett. We know who the Mandalorian is. We know who Grogu or Baby Yoda is.
It's me. You're talking to me.
Hey, you're not alone on this one. You're talking to me also.
There are other people.
So, what do we need to know for season 3?
3. Okay.
All right. Are you going to start, Gina? And
I'll start with Moff Gideon. We'll talk about Moff Gideon. And he's the big bad in this show. He is the one who really wanted to get Grogu at the beginning. Because it's a whole story. There's a whole other storyline going on.
Is he the one who sent Mandalorian? Is he the head bounty hunter dude also?
Yes. No. He's the guy with the black. He has the black. He's like Darth Vader, but he doesn't wear a helmet.
Okay.
That's what it looks like to me. Anyway.
Let me break in. So Mandalorian's a bounty hunter. At the beginning of the series, he's sent on a mission to get the child or Baby Yoda or whatever you want to call him, which he does succeed to get, brings him back, and he's turned over to these scientists that are doing experiments on him. Mando has a change.
Okay.
Yeah. He has a change of heart about that, and he decides to go and get Baby Yoda out of the situation and rescues him basically. And then he's kind of flying around with him for the rest of season 1. And that's when we find out that
Moff
Gideon is the main bad guy.
But he sent him originally. He did send him originally to go get him as the bounty.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I was starting with. Then there's a whole storyline with Moff Gideon, and he's this big bad with this black lightsaber. So just remember that. He has this black lightsaber that comes in later.
Is that the same black lightsaber that, like the big black, looks like actually a sword that has a point on it? Okay.
Yes. That's important also. That's another important thing that Moff Gideon has. Then there's a whole thing who it belongs to, and that ties in later. Then that's the end of season 1, basically. It's flying around black saber. All right. Season 2, we start, and he doesn't want to give up.
Who is he?
Mandalorian doesn't want to give up Grogu. There's a whole storyline there where they're traveling the galaxy with the eggs and the frog lady, and he saves the frog lady. That's a whole thing setup. There's all these setups because there's all this stuff there's a frog family that he's helping. That's super important in the background.
Kermit and Robin and
exactly
different frogs.
Okay, so then he says, okay, I'm going to take him to a school because he needs to learn from a Jedi. So he sends up, they go to this temple and they send up the signal to get a Jedi. Okay, that's another side thing. All the while, we have Gideon trying to get him. We have the storyline with Amy Sedaris going on, and she can understand him. And then we have, what else is going on? I'm trying to think. Pete, what else is going on? There's like 3 things going on.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on, but the main plot of the second season is trying to find where Baby Grogu belongs. So Mando in the first season, he's trying to figure out how to rescue him and what to do with him. And then in the second season, it's more about I need to find him a home. So again, there's a lot of different adventures that go on, and they introduce characters, which some come back later. But the importance of it is he's trying to find a place for baby Grogu. And by the end of it, Moff Gideon, I think, captures Baby Yoda again.
Yes, and they start doing tests on him and trying to get the blood that makes him a Jedi.
Right. So because they think they can use Baby Grogu to
for the blood,
make force sensitive people.
Yeah.
But anyways, so Jin and some of the other characters go and rescue Baby Yoda.
Jen. Who's Jen?
Din Djarin is the Mandalorian.
Okay,
that's his name. It's just Din. I said Jin.
Yeah. It was Din Djarin. It's like.
But so anyways, Mando and some other people go to rescue him. They fight Moff Gideon, and then Luke Skywalker shows up.
And I have to point this out. In the middle of the fight, he gets Cobb. What's his name? Cobb Vanth, who's later on in the Boba Fett series. So you need to. He has Cobb Vanth with him fighting.
Who is Cobb Salad? Who is this guy?
That's Timothy Oliphant. You need to know him for Boba Fett.
Justified. Justified guy. This is different show. Anyways, Mando defeats Moff Gideon. In doing so, he gets the it's called the dark saber. It's the black lightsaber. He gets the dark saber. Luke comes, takes Baby Yoda to train him, and so this is at the end of the second season. Then we get the Book of Boba Fett, where there's a couple episodes.
Okay, no, wait. What is there? There's something about he took his helmet off. What's that whole thing about?
Well, yeah. So he at the end of the season, when Luke is taking away Baby Yoda, he takes his helmet off and he shows his helmet, or he shows his face, and he's of a sect of Mandalorians. And this is important to know because you're going to see other Mandalorians that take their helmets off all the time, and you're going to be like, well, why can't he take his helmet off? Well, it's because there's different
He's part of a religious.
Well, he's part of a religious sect. I mean, this is part of lore.
It's deep.
It's
deep. So he's not allowed. He's not supposed to be able to. He's not supposed to take it off.
He's not supposed to show his face to anybody. That's part of his religion or beliefs or whatever. So the fact that he did that, now he's kind of been excommunicated. That's what happens in the Book of Boba Fett episodes. Is he goes to visit his clan. They basically tell him he's excommunicated because he took his helmet off.
But then they still help him.
No, they meet Sabine. They meet a different Mandalorian. The owner of the Darksaber is Sabine. They meet her. She's actually the rightful owner.
Not Sabine. Sabine's from Rebels.
Bo-Katan. Sorry, Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan. Yeah.
Sorry. Different.
We're making it a little too complicated.
But there's so much going on.
George Lucas made it way too complicated.
There's so much going on. This is Dave Filoni's story.
Actually, Dave Filoni made it
Dave
too complicated.
Filoni's story.
So, anyways, where we're at to jump ahead, where we're at the beginning of season 3 is Mando went back to Luke, and basically Luke gave Baby Yoda a choice to say, do you want to stay and keep training, or do you want to go back to your papa? More or less, who's Mando, and he chose to go back.
He chose to go back. He said, "Bye, Luke. We're good."
Yeah, where we're at right now is now Baby Yoda is back with Mandalorian. The Mandalorian has the Darksaber,
and he has a new vehicle, which is the Naboo Starfighter
ship. Yeah, but
I love
the Darksaber. In lore, if you win the Darksaber in battle, you become the leader of the Mandalorian people. So where we're at right now is, I assume, is that we're going to get the story of him getting more involved with the politics of Mandalore, which there's a lot of stuff in Clone Wars and even Rebels about the Mandalorians
and the Darksaber. And
without going in, I said, I don't think it's necessary to go into all that. But basically what we're going to have happen, I suspect, is we're going to have adventures where Mando and Baby Yoda are working to bring the Mandalorians together and also I assume to defeat Moff Gideon, because for some reason he didn't kill him.
Right?
What?
And then Thanos shows up, right?
Maybe he'll snap and then it'll all
Unlikely,
be
yeah.
done.
Oh, that's a perfect segue into where Kate and Casey are in their Marvel journey through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We just watched Infinity War, and it is sad every single time you watch it.
It is
Back
so
to you, Pete.
sad. It is so sad.
I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
Oh, God. Derek, have you seen Infinity War?
Yes.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. It's so sad.
There's one sadder.
What? Which one?
I Love You 3000.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Endgame.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Wait.
In
it glitched.
Endgame.
In
Endgame.
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 Yeah.
When basically it's his message from Beyond the Dead.
To his
Yeah.
daughter.
Oh, I
Tony
love
Stark's
you
message to his
3000.
Anyways, we're getting totally off topic.
Anyway, bottom
So
line
I
is
think
you've
the
been living
only
under
thing,
a rock.
yeah. So I think the only thing that's important is Mandalorian. He's back with Baby Yoda. He's got the Darksaber, which is supposed to unite the Mandalorians, and I think that's where we don't know for sure where the story is going to go this season, but I suspect that we're going to have more
Bo-Katan.
Mandalorian lore. But all we really know from the show is we've seen Bo-Katan, who's Katie Sackhoff. She's got red hair. She actually did the voice in
on the animated
Clone
series.
Wars.
Mhm.
So which is unusual that they have the actor
She's a
play the
Battlestar
character.
also.
Right. She was first became famous in Battlestar Galactica. The actress, not the character. So I think we're gonna get a lot more Mandalorian stuff in this season. This is probably, I shouldn't say it. This is definitely my favorite Star Wars thing that Disney has done. It's very, especially the first season is very spaghetti Western to me, which I'm a big fan of Westerns and spaghetti Westerns, and the lone gunman, which is what basically Mandalorian starts out with as, and the lone gunman that is not a good guy, but he ends up having a heart of gold and everything like that. So it's very tropey with Westerns. So if you like Westerns, I think this is a good show. It's much better. Unfortunately, the Book of Boba Fett was kind of stunk, except for the two Mandalorian
episodes. For the Mandalorian episodes and the episode where they had Cobb in the tank, in the bantha tank, in the Bacca tank, whatever.
Okay, is Cobb the Billy Bob Thornton character? Or
no, it
looks like Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah,
he does kind of look like Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah,
that's him.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's actually Timothy Oliphant. He was also in
getting
Deadwood.
He's getting healed, so he'll be.
I think if anybody saw Deadwood.
Yeah, I think he's going to show up though also in this. I think it's going to be some more of this bounty hunter stuff because I don't think there's going to be another Book of Boba Fett, so they'll probably tie that up and then finish off the Mando with the.
Yeah, they haven't talked at all about more Book of Boba Fett. So I think
they're just going to tie that up.
But they have already talked about it in season 4 of this.
Yes.
So,
so they're going to tie up a lot of loose ends.
Favreau's already written. So this show is very Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, but Jon Favreau has really been the shepherd of this show and the lead writer and everything. Even though he hasn't directed a lot of it, he's heavily involved with the show. And the Book of Boba Fett, I think he was involved with a little bit, but not quite as much.
Okay. So
I'm sure that made it completely clear.
Clear as mud, right? Clear as mud.
Clear as mud.
Kate,
Clear
we'll
as
be
mud.
drinking next week.
Yeah, right.
I am betting that there will be a recap at the start of the first episode.
Or they need to have a recap like available on Disney Plus for you to watch in 30 minutes of this is what happened. So
yeah,
they do.
Okay,
I agree.
So that will be our next week's show. We will be primarily discussing the premiere, and that is not this was the season 3 primer. And next week will be the season 3 premiere. So no, that is not a typo down at the bottom. Primer. Then there will also be a season 3 premiere.
Excellent.
So that will be next week. But Kate, we do have a little bit of Disney Plus news. What we
Yes,
got
we
going on
do.
this week?
We only have one thing of Disney Plus news, and that's that a trailer for Peter Pan and Wendy, the latest live action adaptation, appeared this week. The show will premiere on Disney Plus on April 28th. That's it.
Did everybody see it?
I did. I'm intrigued. It
I'm
actually
not-
intrigued me.
No,
I'm not
I'm not at
You're not?
all.
at all. I'm not either. I'm like,
No.
you guys can watch
I'm
it for me
intrigued.
and tell me how it is.
Okay,
I don't
What
tend to
int-
like live action
okay,
things. So
Steve, what intrigues you?
I'm intrigued by the twist of how they're trying to update it. It just caught enough interest. Doesn't mean it's going to be good, but I was like, oh, okay, I might watch it. If it's bad as Pinocchio, I'm turning it off.
Well, that was my comment. Was
That's a low
that
bar.
it's definitely, I'm definitely more willing to watch it than I was Pinocchio. So I don't hate the idea of watching it. Let's put it that way. But it does feel like it's just going to be the same story, basically.
Yeah.
And if it's not, they're gonna go. It's either gonna be the same story, or they're gonna try and like hookify it.
I totally think they're gonna hookify it. I
Oh,
totally think that.
Yeah,
I
and
totally
that's
went
been
there.
done once.
do you mean by that? Do you mean like the
Like-
movie Hook?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think,
I just don't know Peter's gonna get older, but I do feel it's gonna have that Hook vibe too. I got
Well,
that same.
or it's gonna. Yeah, I'm not.
Because I felt like by the fact there were scenes of them like on the on Big Ben,
That's just gonna be the movie.
that it's
vibe.
just gonna be the same plot as the
Yeah.
normal Peter Pan
I
story.
think it will be very similar. I don't think it will have the songs, which I think will be to its detriment.
Yeah.
And no
um,
one plays Peter Pan like Mary Martin. So
Oh, that I don't mind. I'll be honest, that I don't mind.
no, I like
But-
that one. I think they're gonna try to do that, and it's just gonna fail.
But it's because the Peter Pan, the at least the little glimpse we got of him looked too old. He looked like tweenish or even early teens, which to me is
Too old.
it's
So
too
did
old
Wendy,
to not
though.
be
I
growing
thought.
up.
That's
Huh?
the Hook,
I thought so did Wendy. She looked
Yeah,
like
that's-
she was probably like 15.
and that's the Hook
Yeah.
problem.
And that's also that's too old to not have grown up yet to me.
I get
So
It has to be a
Still be
fourth
in the
grader.
nursery at 15,
see.
right?
I would even say a fifth grader.
Yeah, still
No.
elementary's fine. Elementary's fine.
No fifth grader, fourth grader.
Yeah, but it depends on the fourth and fifth grader. But somewhere in that 10, 11-year-old range is where
Yeah.
you haven't grown up yet.
Totally agree. Yes.
So, and I mean, honestly, Peter's voice was too deep in the preview. It was too, his voice was too, and
I agree.
I'm hesitant as someone who directed the original James Barry play in a high school and did the show that way. I'm very hesitant if, okay, who played Hook? I should know. Actor, famous actor.
Dustin Hoffman.
No.
That's
On
Hook.
this one.
Oh, Jude Law, right?
Jude Law.
Yes, Jude Law.
If he is not also Mr. Darling, that's a
Oh,
problem.
I'm sure they'll do that. He's got it. They got to do that.
You're sure they'll do that?
I'm pretty sure.
The live actions have been crap lately. No, not lately. The live actions have been crap.
All of them are terrible.
Yes.
I could stomach Aladdin. I could stomach it. That was the.
I could stomach parts of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, and the Beauty and the Beast, the ballroom scene. I could deal with that. That's it.
Beauty and the Beast was
I could
okay.
deal up until she got to the castle.
Oh, I could deal with the ballroom scene. That was it. That's all I could handle.
So
That's all I could
Anyway.
handle of that one. Anyway,
that will be coming. We will be looking at that when it comes out, for better or worse. So, guys,
Well, and let's also say this, like the Little Mermaid, they're putting in theaters. This
they are not.
they're not putting in theaters. So, do you think that they think this is going to be a great
Stinker.
movie?
stinker.
And especially that's when they put Ant-Man they put Quantumania in theaters. So,
Well, Marvel, they
People like that.
have to.
well, yeah, but still, I mean, Yeah, I'm not holding out great hope for Peter Pan and Wendy. So, guys, we will have some spots in, especially in May at this point, where we are going to need some shows to review. If you have some shows to review, especially some diamonds in the rough, please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. We need your suggestions because otherwise it's us coming up with the shows. So we want to know what you want us to watch. We come out every Thursday on YouTube and all major podcasting platforms. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Gina, Kate, Steve, Pete, thank you so much for being with us. And we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.